I say this with all kindness and sincerity. If you are a teacher and this is what you think about the students in your classroom right now, maybe you should rethink your career. Not only can your students read what you say in public about them, but they're fully aware that your view of them shapes the way that you interact with them and the way that you teach them. My husband is a special education teacher, and he would never, ever say this about his students. He wouldn't think it, because he's fully aware of the way that our kids are really going through it right now. They aren't the worst generation. They're a generation that's been handed a crumbling society, an ongoing genocide, climate change, microplastic pollution, a failing democracy, incredibly high cost of living, crumbling job security. They know their future means taking out massive debt to attend colleges that will sick the cops on them for exercising their First Amendment rights. But you think the problem is that kids aren't being punished enough at home, and you think your attitude doesn't actively harm your students. Hey teachers, if you don't like the fact that kids aren't behaving in school today, maybe the problem isn't what you think it is. This person is commenting on a video I made yesterday where I was frustrated at a teacher who said that this generation was the worst generation of kids that they had ever had to teach, blaming today's kids for their misbehavior and for their inability to engage with academic learning. I was talking about all of the myriad stressors in society that make it impossible for kids to engage in the school system and result in them acting out as well. And some teachers in my comments were like, okay, we're not blaming the kids, but the problem is definitely the parents. It starts at home. So some teachers blaming the students themselves, some blaming the parents. Nobody really willing to look at how these are systemic problems that are manifesting in the behavior and lack of engagement in our kids. And Lexi here makes a really good point. There's also a whole other layer here that today's parents are no longer prioritizing compliance in our kids. We no longer believe in first-time obedience. We no longer believe in hitting our children to get them to do what we want. I made a video earlier today where I talked about how I don't believe that misbehavior is a thing. I don't believe in obedience. We're no longer shaming or punishing kids into suppressing very normal age-appropriate behavior. So some of what we're seeing in schools is that kids are just acting like kids. They're not acting like little obedient automatons. They are expressing very normal developmental behavior. And the industrial school model is not set up to accommodate that behavior. So add in the fact that our kids are very well aware that we're all fucked and the system is fucked and everything is falling apart, and that we have handed them a absolute shit sandwich on a platter in terms of what we've done to the environment, what we have done to our government, what we've done to our quality of life here in America, and what kind of future we have shackled our kids to. But add to that this layer of we are parents who are now informed about normal child development, and we have realistic expectations for our kids, and the industrial school model has not caught up to that yet. So yes, our kids are acting out. We as parents are letting them have their feelings. We're letting them have their outrage. We're letting them express their frustration at what we have done to them in a developmentally appropriate way. And that does not go over very well in the highly regimented school system that we have in America. A school system built on churning out compliant, good little workers for capitalism. So maybe part of the problem is the parents at home. We as parents are no longer willing to play our part in the system. We're no longer willing to uphold that paradigm to the detriment of our children. And I'm not blaming the teachers in this scenario for the most part. I mean, my husband is a public school math special education teacher. I'm blaming the industrial school model. But also I'm asking teachers to have a little bit more nuance and dig a little bit deeper when you're looking at why our kids are acting out in school. Because when you say this is the worst generation of kids ever, blame the kids, that's a lazy out. When you say, well, the problem starts at home, it's really a problem of the parents, also lazy. Dig deeper and realize these are systemic issues. Cultural and societal issues, but also issues within the school system as well, an outdated paradigm that maybe no longer serves our society and definitely doesn't serve today's kids and definitely doesn't serve teachers. So I think the more that we parent our children with dignity and without coercion, the more that we're honest with them about how things are, the more our kids are raised with autonomy and knowing their own mind and their own will, the less we're willing to have our kids be subjected and subjugated by a system that wants to exploit them for their entire life, for their labor, their body, their life hours. I think the more we're going to see schools being a canary in the coal mine of our society. I don't know how I'm going to teach my child to work hard without straight up lying to her. Yep, how do we and why should we instill a strong work ethic in our kids when we now know that working hard doesn't lead to success? That the Protestant work ethic is a manipulation tactic. I mean, we've been groomed by capitalism from day one to believe that if we just grind a little harder, if we sell our bodies a little bit more to the corporations, if we give more of our life hours to the system, that that what? We'll have comfort and security? We know that's a lie now. We've been hoodwinked by capitalism to sacrifice our bodies and our lives to the system for somebody else's profit, for the profit of corporations and CEOs. And I think my generation is really realizing how much the American dream is a lie. And the folks who do achieve it have done so off the backs of other people by exploiting other laborers and exploiting the planet. And we love our kids and we just can't bullshit to them about it now that we know, right? Now that the scales are off our eyes, we don't want to indoctrinate our kids the same way we've been indoctrinated. So what does that mean for raising kids today? I mean, this was on a video where I talked about how like kids are acting out in schools and kids don't want to participate in the school system because they don't see the value in doing their homework. They don't see the value in investing in academics. They don't see the value in participating in the system. They know it's bullshit. And teachers are complaining, well, it's the parents' fault that kids are like this. I mean, maybe it's the reality that parents are no longer willing to be complicit in selling their children to the system like they were sold to the system. We want to be honest with our kids. We want to have a good connected relationship with them. And when they come to us and say, like, why should I bother? The game is like totally rigged from the beginning. Why should I jump through these hoops? Where's it going to get me? We tell them the truth. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know why. I hear you when you say it feels pointless. And I think your apathy is justified. We bought into what our parents and the school system said about the American dream, and how has that panned out for us? I mean, I don't want my kids to be wage slaves. I don't want them to grind themselves down to nothing so that corporations can profit. I don't want them to be sacrificial lambs to the system. So when they say this all feels like meaningless bullshit, I'm going to say, yep, I hear you. I agree with you. The fault here is not the kids. It's not the parents. It's the system that we all have to exist in right now. And the reality that neither today's parents nor today's kids are willing to take it lying down. We're not willing to throw our own lives under the bus, and we're definitely not willing to throw our kids' lives under the bus anymore. And I'm sorry if that makes it harder for folks who still uphold the system to get our kids to cooperate.